Today will go down as one of the most ambitious projects I have ever attempted on this channel. I know the All-Star game was last week, but today we are going to be ranking every single All-Star jersey since the beginning of the NBA, or the ABA technically. Now, throughout the course of my very long research for this video, it occurred to me that there were some eras that we are going to be dividing the jerseys up into. We're still going to be ranking every single individual jersey, but a lot of them can be grouped together based on the era they were from. And before we get started, huge shout out to the website Basketball Jersey Database. They made making this video a lot easier. So if you're interested, go to this website, check out all these jerseys. They have a really cool thing going. So with all that out of the way, let's get right into this tier list. Starting with the first era in 1951, I call it the Star Era. And the reason being is just every jersey is some kind of different formation of stars on the front with some numbers. All of them are divided into the East and the West as blue and white, which honestly, it's a solid look. There's just not much difference between them running through about 1966. So that entire era was all pretty similar. Slight changes, like I said, in the star placement, but that's about it. So we're going to go through these pretty fast. I really think all these in the Star Era are going to be solidly in B tier for me. So 1951, 1952, 1953, 1954, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62. They kind of changed it up and made it a white and red theme, which is cool, but it's still just kind of in that same category for me. So I'm just going to put it in B tier. I still like it. 1963, 1964, 1965, and then 1966. So that's the Star Era, 1951 through 1966. All of them very solid design. I think there's a reason why they didn't change it for so long. But starting with the 1967 season, it looks like they switched things up in a big way. So we have the East and West All-Star game on the Golden State Warriors jerseys. I love it, honestly. I think I'm going to put this one in A tier. And I'm going to name this entire era the Hometown Era because you can see that they incorporated the East and the West, but put it kind of in the font and in the template of the local team that was hosting the games that year. But this Golden State Warriors All-Star jersey stands out to me. They already have a great jersey, and to add the East and the West accent to it, it looks really nice. Now, when I first saw this next one from 1968, I thought it was Philadelphia because of the stars or something like that, but it was actually in Madison Square Garden. So just because it doesn't really scream New York to me, I'm just going to put it in C tier. It's not horrible, but it's definitely not my favorite. Next up, 1969, and this is another one where I don't really know where the vision was here. It's a very basic template, which isn't bad. I do like the red against the white. It's not a bad look. I kind of want to put it in the B with the Stars era, but I think I'm just going to put it down here in C. It's just kind of mid. Not great, not horrible. Now, what's funny is in 1970, these jerseys are screaming Chicago Bulls to me. So I was sure that this was going to be a Chicago year, but it turns out it was in the Spectrum in Philadelphia. So I still like them, but I like them more if they were kind of resembling a Chicago Bulls jersey. So again, these are going to go in C tier for me. But for some reason, 1971 really kind of speaks to me. I guess the font is a little bit different and the numbers are just slightly different. The piping is a little bit different. I don't know why, but I just really like it. I'm gonna put it in A tier. It's gonna be towards the end of A tier, but I can't really explain why it stands out above the other kind of Stars era jerseys, but to me it just does. And again, in 1972, the Forum. These might be one of my favorite. I mean, I'm not the biggest Lakers fan per se, but I can't deny that their jerseys are iconic. The purple and the gold. I think we're going to put them in S tier. That could be debatable. I kind of want to put even Golden State in S tier. We'll put them there for now. I don't know if they'll last in S tier, but it's a jersey that I really like. And then the 1973 Chicago Stadium, I don't love it even as much as the 1971 in San Diego, even though it's basically the same jersey except for 2 stars on it. So for that reason, I have to just stay consistent and put it in A tier, even though it doesn't speak to me for some reason as much as the one in San Diego. Next up, we have the Seattle Center Coliseum. And again, this one looks like it just fits right in with the Stars era. Not bad, not great, just right there. So I'm just going to put it in B tier with the rest most of them. Now the next one is amazing. And this is kind of what I want more of in today's NBA All-Star games, kind of incorporate more of the local team. I mean, I think they do a decent job at it, but I still think there's some strides to be made there. Here in 1975, obviously a template after the Phoenix Suns, and I think it looks amazing. I'm going to put it right behind Golden State here in A tier. It's borderline S tier for me, but I think that's a great look. I love the kind of Western text that the Suns had back in the day, and then the Suns logo on the pants. It looks really nice. Now 1976, kind of going back to their olden days. Just gonna put it right there with the stars uniforms. Not much more to say about that one. And then this is another one that I really like. This one was in Milwaukee in 1977, and I love the text that they have going on. It's a different text for the West and the East. I love the colors, the green and white and red. And then the logo is a little pint of beer or something. I think this one, it was just hit out of the park. Everything about it, the fonts, the lettering, the stars, everything I just love. So that's going to be an easy S tier for me. And that's going to end that era of the NBA All-Star game. That was the hometown era. And we're actually entering a very long and dominant era next. I named it the All-American Era, and that's just because all of the templates are just red, white, and blue for the foreseeable future. 1978 was a solid look. It just looks similar to the Stars era, if you will. So I'm just going to put it in B tier, and a lot of these are going to go in B tier. Because with that red, white, and blue, I mean, it's not a terrible look. It's just nothing special when you put it next to 20 others. Up until about 1981 is when I think it starts to get a little better. They have the smaller stars going down the sides of the jerseys. They got the east-west on the shorts, and they kept that template from 81, it looks like, till about 84. So all of those ones that they have with that template, I'm going to be putting in A tier. And in 1984 is actually going to end that specific era of the All-American Era, except for, I mean, you still can apply it to these next jerseys, but and just the way that this template dominated years of the All-Star game. I call it the standardized era just because it's a very plain template, and I mean, it's nice. It's definitely missing something, especially using it over and over. They used this template from 1985 all the way until 1990. So 5 years in a row of just the same exact jersey over and over. It looks like they changed from blue and white to red and white, but that's about it. So I'm going to put all these in C tier. It's just a little bit lack of creativity, especially from what we've seen when they incorporate kind of the local logos into the All-Star game. When we've already seen that kind of creativity, you're kind of graded differently going forward. So these are all going to go in C tier for me. And then we hit, honestly, one of my favorites, and I could be a little bit biased, but I think from 1991 to 1994 has to be one of the most iconic All-Star jerseys to date. And that could just be my bias coming out, being a Jazz fan, and that being kind of the peak Stockton Malone era and them rocking those jerseys in the All-Star games. But I really like them. So I'm going to actually put all of these in the A tier. We had those jerseys all the way through 94. So leading up to that point, it was really a standard template, red, white, and blue, stars, NBA All-Stars. And then all of a sudden in 1995, 1996, we got something completely different. I call this one the Southwest era. It only lasted for 2 years, but it was amazing. In 1995 in the America West Arena, we got the purple and the white with the cactus inside the star. It was just a complete left turn from whatever we've seen previously, and this was actually the year I was born, so I don't remember this at all, but I love these jerseys. I'm going to put them up in S tier, and same with San Antonio. Again, incorporating the local team's colors, kind of their vibe, if you will. So I love what they did with that. They're both going to go in S tier. I think that was a great 2 years for the All-Star game, and just a revelation really from what we were getting previously. This was an interesting kind of still debated era coming up next. I call it the bring your own jersey era. The players were basically just wearing their own jerseys, and I personally like the idea. I like when a player can represent not only themselves but the team that they're playing for that season in the All-Star game. Yes, it could have been a bit confusing on the court to see who was playing against who and who was on which team, but I think it was unique, and I don't think it would be bad to bring it back either. So just because I like the idea, the jerseys are just the jerseys. I'm gonna be putting this one in B tier, mostly, like I said, for the idea. The jerseys are all different, so there's not really one jersey that I can pick and have that represent the entire era or the entire year. So that bring your own jersey era lasted until 2002, and then we got this random 2003 ode back to those 90s years where they just had that standard all-star template. I guess it can be considered a throwback at the time, but I'm putting it in C tier along with the other ones. And unfortunately, up until this point, I mean, none of them's that bad. C tier is still mid, like it's not great, but it's not bad either. 2004 is officially the dark age era. I think we got some real stinkers throughout these years, and it lasted a while. I actually have the dark ages era peaking in 2014, so that's 10 years wandering in the wilderness of terrible jerseys. Some of them aren't bad. I don't think any of them are above C tier, but this is where we get some of the worst designs that I've ever seen. 2004 wasn't bad. I mean, it's just not great. 2005, I think, is my least favorite all-star jersey I've ever seen. That's going to be an F tier for me. Some of these jerseys look better on the images on the computer. Some of them look better in person. This one looks bad on the images and also in person, actually worse in person. And also with 2008, it's still another terrible design. It's not F tier, but it's D tier. It's not good. 2007, we're gonna put that in C tier. It's not on the level of those other two, but it's not gonna go above C tier, and it's at the bottom of C tier for me. Same goes for 2008. It's not hurting my eyes, but it's not inspiring me either. 2009, I'm actually gonna put in D tier. That could be a hot take. It just kind of reminds me of some anime flames coming out of the shorts. The text isn't bad, but I really don't like it. In 2010, we're gonna put also in D tier, borderline C tier, but I'm fine putting it in D tier. 2011 might be a hot take, but I don't hate it, but I don't love it. It's gonna be in C tier. 2012, also not horrible, but still not great. 2013, gonna put that one in C tier. And 2014 might be the worst of the bunch. And this was just a representation of the NBA as a whole. It's a time capsule that locks in the horrible decision that was t-shirt jerseys, soccer jerseys. Thankfully, it only lasted 1 year, but man, that was a rough year, especially for my Jazz. Some dark days in those uniforms, some dark days. I mean, this all-star jersey in a way beautifully represents the state of NBA uniforms at the time, but in the worst possible way. So for that reason, I lovingly put it in F tier. Grateful that it's passed, and I'm also grateful that we can look back on this all-star game and remember those days every time we see those jerseys. Luckily, there are brighter days ahead. So next up, I have dubbed the Oreo era. Basically, it's just a lot of black and white templates. So 2015, I actually really like. I'm gonna put it in A tier. I think it's just a solid jersey. Again, not trying to do too much, just the basic black and white, something we haven't seen before, so it was mixing it up. And a lot of it for me is just less is more for my liking. Next up, this one doesn't totally fit into the Oreo era per se. Neither does 2017 really. But regardless, it's still gonna be considered in this era just because it's sandwiched in between those. 2016 is all right. It is kind of giving ode to those classic all-star jerseys. I'm gonna put it in B tier. I don't love the shorts, kind of the bars of color going around the butt. It's not my favorite look, and I didn't think it looked great in person, but it's not terrible either. 2017 was a little bit worse for me. I'm gonna put that one in C tier. Just one of those things where I don't love it, don't hate it, don't really have much of an opinion at all on it. And this one might be a hot take too, but 2018 and 2019 are one of my favorite jerseys of all time. Especially 2019, I really wouldn't mind seeing them incorporate this for every NBA All-Star game going forward, where we have a solid kind of color for the jersey, maybe some different stars or whatever they want to do, but have some kind of element of the team that you play for. I think that's really cool when they're able to do that. So 2018, I think they did it really well. It's going to be an A tier, but 2019 took it to another level in my opinion, incorporating kind of the red, white, and blue piping with the stars is exactly what I wanted, while still being able to represent the team that you were playing for that year. So that one's going to go in S tier for me as well. And that one actually does conclude the Oreo era. A lot of these eras do kind of cap off with that quintessential jersey for that time period. And that kind of brings us into the last era, which I dubbed the modern era. And these were actually some really solid jerseys as well. I really like 2020's jersey. Pinstripes, the swoop neck, the simplicity of it. That's gonna go in A tier. And it might be a hot take, but I actually do like 2021. I like that they switched up the font for the jerseys. Almost got an early 2000s vibe to it. I actually really like it, so I'm gonna put that one in A tier as well. 2022, I mean, it reminds me of that 90s era standardized template. Just the logo is way too big. Especially seeing it in person on some of the players, it's just so loud. It's gonna have to go in C tier, maybe even I'm gonna put it in D tier. No, it was pretty bad. 2023, I'm a little conflicted on this one just because I don't love gradient uniforms usually, but it is the year that my team hosted the All-Star game, which was a cool experience. I think if it was any other city, I would have put it in D tier, but because it was in Utah, I'll have to put it in C tier. Call me biased, but that's just how I'm feeling. And that brings us to the most recent jersey in the modern era, and this is actually one of my favorites they've ever put out. I mean, it's not a perfect jersey, it's very good. I do really like the color combination that they chose for these. It's kind of a darker red and a darker blue. It makes it really easy on the eyes. The subtle pinstripes are a really nice detail. Only thing I would change, and I'm not docking it for this reason, but the only thing that I would change is bring back the individual logos from 2018 and 2019 instead of the all-star logo that they design every year. I think they can put those on the shirts or maybe on the patch on the side. I think it's more enticing for fans to kind of buy something that represents not only the All-Star game and the player that they like, but also the team that they play for and the team that they root for. So I want to see more of that going forward in the NBA All-Star game. But that was the longest tier list that we've done on this channel. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below. And if you want me to make a tier list in the future, let me know in the comment section and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.